Come on. Flip it over. Thank you. All right. How you guys doing? Wow, I even have a scar like Peter Cetera used to. All right, I'll get into that in a minute. But y'all, I want to talk to you today about just how much Chicago has impacted the way that I look at life, and how I've grown from it. Wow, I've already gotten one like, no viewers. Let me switch to my other browser. Alright. Turn that off. Okay, so Chicago has been very prevalent in my life for the past 3 years, as I'm sure y'all know. You've seen it, especially if you follow me on Instagram. And, it's just really good music that has just grown on me. There's no denying that Chicago's a good band. Like, I don't know anyone that hates Chicago. I've never met anyone that doesn't like them. Like, they're so good, and they're still doing good. Alright? Like, 55 years later, they are still doing more than 100 shows a year, which is insane. Like, even with 2020, that year was successful for them. So, now how that ties into my life, well, back when I was in grade 8, we had to play a piece called 25 or 6 to 4 for football, because we were going to play with a high school band. And people really liked it, and I was digging it, but then I went and listened to the original right here in this exact spot, actually, and I was not impressed at first. I was like, what is this? This sounds like hippie music. And it's funny, but then you watch a documentary. Like, there used to be a lot of Chicago songs that I did not like. There are some that I still don't like, but some of them I can tolerate now because I know the stories behind them, and watching the documentaries will really open your eyes to it, and like it'll give you a whole new meaning to the song, and it feels different then, and it's really quite amazing, that process. So fast forward about 9 months, I'm in truck with my dad, and he has his phone connected to the vehicle, and Look Away by Chicago comes on. Look Away. That song was actually number 1 in 1988. It topped the charts. That's the only number 1 that Chicago has had since Peter Cetera left. But I heard the beginning of it, and I was like, wow, I like this. I like this kind of music, And, Peter Cetera said the exact same thing. He's like, you start listening to radio, you start liking that kind of music, and then it's like, something you can sing along to. But, like the melody is what sticks with you, the melody's the song. And, what makes one memorable or what makes one not memorable is unknown. It's just, you have to do it more than once. And, I can tie that to a lot of the experiences that I've had in band, I played in region bands, I played in marching band, I've done many football games, competitions, stuff like that. And, that it's the melody that, people, when it comes to contemporary wind song, it's very, very easy to forget, especially if you don't know the title, because, you can't look it up and reference it later on. But, that's the one thing that people really like, and the most important part is that melody, alright? Because, like, you can mess up the words in a song, but you know the melody, all right? Like there's just, that's what the melody is the song. And once I'd heard "Look Away," I started exploring Chicago, and then I was playing GTA one day, listening to the rock station, and then I hear "If You Leave Me Now," I'm like, wow, now this band really has something. I was like, okay, I definitely need to get into Chicago because I really liked Look Away. 25 or 6 to 4 was alright, but I was like, I'll give them another chance. And, those two songs, which were both, which were their first and last number one hits, pretty funny. Those were the songs that drew me into Chicago. And, since then, like, I bought their album. I bought The Very Best of Chicago, Only the Beginning. I bought that album on my phone at the end of 2019, just 3 years ago. And, I started out by, just listening to 25 or 6 to 4, and then I came across Happy Man. Happy Man is an amazing song. I love that song so much. I've loved that song since I was a freshman. Same with If You Leave Me Now. I even did a paper on If You Leave Me Now. It was a very simple. It was a very simple assignment, just because there's only 25 lines in the song, and yeah, and it's just become a way of my life. Like, I played trombone for 6 years. You all know this. And the way I got pulled into Chicago wasn't necessarily because of the brass. I mean, that will appeal to a lot of high school kids that are in marching bands. And I've seen it as much. My ex girlfriend, she likes 25 or 6 to 4, Saturday in the Park. And like it's just like. It's got they have such a wide variety that you can apply any of their songs to any scenario. Like, it's crazy. Like, you have Beginnings, Along Comes a Woman, I'm a Man, just to name a couple of them. It Better End Soon. That one is amazing. I love that song. But the one that stuck out when I heard the verse was question 67 and 68. I was like, whoa, I feel like I've heard this before. I don't know when, but I think I know where I was when I heard it. It was probably in the car with my parents, and it was on, and that was their first single from 1969, and that was where they started, and that one, it's got a very strong brass fanfare in the beginning. And, that was how it started. I started very strong in band. I was a natural. Like, there was one time my director came up to me, she was like, I can tell you've been practicing. And I was thinking, no, I haven't been practicing. I'm just, like, really good at this, And, that was how it became with trombone. I really excelled in my 6th and 7th grade years. I was playing more challenging stuff. I was playing higher notes. I was able to play higher than anyone in 6th grade. Higher than some trumpet players even, which is crazy to think, but it's just, when you have that motivation, nothing's going to stop you, alright? It doesn't get more true than that, Actually, let me get some light. That's better. So, yeah, music is a big part of history. Everyone knows this, and, that's why even the military has had some involvement in music in the past couple hundred years, because it means something. It really does. And Chicago is a big part of music history too. They broke a lot of new ground. Walt Parazater said that the inception of the band was trying to find the best musicians in the city of Chicago and bringing it together into one big, bold sound. And they did it very, very well. Like, it was very well orchestrated. And, starting off, they were really good. When they were good, they were really good. And then they had the downfall after Terry Kath died. And then they kind of came back up, and then Peter got pushed away. But I'll get to that in a minute. Back in the days when there was no beef between anybody, they were doing songs like I'm a Man, and, that one, I used to hate that song. I used to absolutely hate that song. Now I love it. Because, Peter has the part in there where, like, if I had to talk about that, that high part. I just I like that. And, I could not stand that song before. But, when you watch these documentaries, it gives you a new perspective into the meaning of those songs, like I said. And, so just so music can absolutely change the way that you see things. Dialogue is another good one. Dialogue parts 1 and 2. That song is still relevant today. It would absolutely be a hit if excuse that song would be a hit if it were to be released today, or re-released, or even remastered. Music doesn't die. All right, music doesn't die. And they did have a lot of struggle, just like I did. I had a lot of struggle getting into a higher band. I wanted to be in the honor band for 6th grade, and I didn't make it. I even re-auditioned. I didn't make it then. I did not get into the top band until my junior year of high school. That was also my last year of high school. But yeah, back in the times when, it was just chill, they were a jamming band, they were amazing. And Terry Kath's talent and driving force was what, really informed the band. And my directors are the ones that, really kept me wanting to do it. I had a really good director in 8th grade. And, I wasn't sure about marching bands. I didn't want to do it. I just wanted to do the football games. I didn't want to do marching. But then I did it my sophomore year, and I absolutely loved it. I look back on that now, and I'm just wow, I'm so glad I did that. It's an experience that not many people get to have. Especially from the eyes of a person that has a condition, what they would consider to be a disability or a disorder. But it's one of those things that just it makes you feel in harmony with the world. And for that, I'm thankful that I had the experience, because it was a lot of fun. But in that time, there was also a lot of heat rising. Okay? There was a person in my section who I actually used to be very close with. And she just completely turned bad on me. And it broke my heart. It hurt a lot, because she used to be like a sister to me. Stupid chair. There. Okay. So yeah, she was like a sister to me, and it hurts to see someone turn on you like that. Go from being sister-like and ruffling up your hair to just bossing you around, singling you out, that's no fun, okay? And I had to deal with that for a year and a half. And that was ultimately what drove me out of bands. Like, and it was just, it was hard to deal with. And, I started having my doubts about band. I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep doing this, with my grades, because I struggled in school a lot. Um, I had a very, very hard time with academics. And, I mean, to this day, if I were still in school, I sure as hell would still struggle the way I did. Because, like, especially with the condition that steel is in, it's not in good shape, okay? In almost 2 years' time, 7 or 8 students at that school have taken their lives. And that is not a good record to hold. It's really not. Like, I guarantee you one more, and someone is going to contact News 4 or someone like that, and you can come out and do a story on the school. But the administration is really good, okay? Like, I do bash steel a lot, alright? But some of it's warranted because of everything that I had to deal with and endure there, because, I was I was put down a lot there, alright? And you know, as a person who is autistic and has ADHD and has certain comprehension disabilities, it's hard to function in an environment like that. Like, it's not easy. Like, I mean, no one ever said it was going to be easy. Like, God never said that this life would be easy. But there should at least be help, like, the counselors should all have time, and, my counselor didn't have time a lot of the time. And just, it wasn't easy to get through, I started, when my junior year started, I felt out of place. It's just like when you wake up super early to go do something exciting, and then it's just underwhelming. That was how every day felt, even when I was in band, even though I had band first period. And that was actually the most fun I'd ever had, playing tuba as a prerequisite for bass trombone. It's like, after 2 years of playing trombone in the section where that meanie was, I was just like, yeah, I was hesitant at first to do tuba, and even more so when I started playing. Like, I had to play tuba for a few days, just play random stuff, noodle through it, before I was like, you know what, I got this. But it took a little bit, alright? It's like, I remember after a couple days of practicing, I went up to my director, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to play this. He was like, well, you're going to. And that was what did it, that was that was what made me keep pushing forward, because I wanted to play bass trombone since I was in 6th grade. Alright, it's got 2 triggers. Who wouldn't want that? Alright, but I mean, when I was in 7th grade, like, I could already play lower than a regular tuba, just slightly lower. I could go down to pedal E's, no problem, and then I could go down to pedal C's. I was able to do that in 8th grade, which is just crazy. And it's not that hard to learn either. Playing pedal tones is actually a lot of fun. And if you have a trigger, you can go a lot lower. That's the exact same thing that the 5th string on a bass guitar does. It lowers, it's a 4th lower. Just like all the other strings, they're a 4th lower than the one above. But, yeah. And, as a prerequisite for bass trombone, it was really good because, it helps you develop the low notes. You get the bigger mouthpiece, and then you go back, and it's just like, oh, you're, like, adapted to playing tuba, so then now, after playing tuba for a month or two, you go back, and now it's just like, you got these rich tones. But that never happened, because I started falling behind in my classes, and like once I started getting behind in physics, I was just like, I knew it was over. I knew there was no way it was going to happen. I contemplated it my freshman year. I was just gonna be like, I don't know, my parents are probably gonna pull me for having bad grades. I'd contemplated that for years, and I was afraid of it. And I started having doubts, like feeling burnout toward the end of my sophomore year. I was just like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this, but I was just kept telling myself, like, no, you have to do this. Like, you absolutely have to. And that's really not a good mentality to have, because, like, I mean, I had put band as my endorsement for all 4 years. So, like, I mean, it was just like if I left that, then I wouldn't have an endorsement. But, starting my junior year, there was just like, I was in a new section, but a lot of them already didn't like me because of years past, and I thought that was really dumb. And I was just like, F my life. And I said it out loud too, in front of them, and they didn't care. So, when the time came, it was just after my 17th birthday. We had a meeting and had me pulled from band that Friday. Never to be seen again. I haven't played a tuba or bass trombone since. I had 3 trombones in my locker. I had one for suicides, and my regular large bore that I have in my closet, the one that I've been playing since grade 7. The Eastman, I think it is. Or no, Ventus. Ventus by Eastman, that's what it is. But yeah. And Suicides was it played another really big part in that, and I actually forgot that. I'd wanted to be in the Suicide Squad, since ever since before school had started, and those of you that read my community tab, you know this very well, so I'm not going to go out on a limb about it again, because I've done it several times now. But, like, all that, it ties into what a lot of Chicago's history, and, how they had their internal struggles, especially with their substance abuse, because they were really big on drugs back in the 70s. They were doing a fair amount of drugs at the time, which is probably, well, I don't want to make assumptions, but it could be why, their music was good back then, and, why they just didn't care. Because, when you're on drugs, like, you have a different sense, and just, like, you don't think to fight with people. Maybe sober you do, I don't know, okay? I'm just making assumptions, but, like, I started getting into Chicago, and that was, like, my first discovery. And then, after I had left band, I started getting into Chicago again after I got tickets for Chicago concert, which I actually have right here. I got this, and I got 2 of these for Christmas last year. All right, and I took my neighbor. Ow! I took one of my neighbors with me, and it was fun. She enjoyed it. It was a really enjoyable experience. Hearing Neil Donnell and them just play. Like it was really something else. And when I was there at that moment, I felt like I was winning at life. It was that good. All right, just being downtown and being in that beautiful building, like the Majestic Theater. If you've never been there, absolutely, I would recommend going, because that is one work of art that I suggest everyone stop and see. Okay? Not the Majestic building, the Majestic Theater, alright? It was built in the late 1920s, and those of you who have gone in there to see shows, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just absolutely breathtaking. I've been in there a few times for shows, and then Chicago. And the funny thing is Chicago has been around since 1967. Excuse that. And that was the first concert that I ever went to on my own. So when a thread came up that was like, age yourself by listing the first concert you went to, and I say Chicago, people think I'm a lot older than I am. And that's the way that it's been ever since I was 12, 13. People thought that I was a junior in high school when I was in 7th grade. It's crazy. And, a lot of the experiences that I've had in life, I can kind of tie back into Chicago and Peter Cetera, because, I had gotten, I was just burned out. All band did was stress me out. I didn't want to go to any of the football games. So and then there was also the people that were really nasty to me, and it just pushed me away. I didn't want to do it anymore. I loved playing tuba, but I just did not want to have the involvement. I didn't want to do the late nights. I had gotten a job by then. I was working at Sonic, and I was just like, no, I really want to make money. I don't make money doing this as much as I used to love it. I used to love doing the football games, but it's just not the same anymore. You have those things that you grow out of, like sneaking into back rooms like some people do. For me, sneaking on freight elevators, that gave me a real sense of excitement, but eventually you grow out of it, just like I did with GTA. I don't even play that anymore. I haven't played it online. I haven't played in a while, but I do go and play story mode on the PS4 sometimes. But yeah, and like it was the exact same thing happened to Peter Cetera. He was pretty much forced out of Chicago. That was how they fired him. They were like, you have to be with, like, he wanted to do another solo album like he did in 1981, and they were not happy that he did that, and they wanted to do another one, and they were like, okay, you better sign this contract saying that you're going to be with Chicago full time, or we're going to have to look for somebody else. Thinking that he would go, oh geez, I'm sorry. And after 10 minutes, he went back to them and was like, you better look for another bass player. And, like, being pulled from band, it was something I really didn't want to do, because, I contemplated for years that, this exact thing might happen. Like the one thing that you're afraid of actually happens. But at the same time, you just go with it like you don't care. Like, alright, sounds good. Because, it'll be better for you. And it's snap decisions like that can change your life for better or for worse. And it did have a great impact on my life. Every day at school from then on was just absolutely miserable for me. It was not a good environment for me. I couldn't grow anymore. And even the possibility of getting the Letterman jacket at the end of the year could not keep me in band. It just couldn't. And there were people that said that, when I told them, there was one person I told that had graduated before I started my junior year, and she was like, wow, that's crazy. Of all people to quit band, I would have figured you would have been the least likely to quit. And I was like, yeah, I know, because of like how involved I was. And if you were around me, and I'm sure some people from school and the bands are going to see this, if you were around me, you knew exactly like how into the music I was. Like, I was always looking up new songs, and I came across All About Christmas, I came across Vesuvius, which are both amazing pieces of music, but Vesuvius is really something else. That was one I was actually turned on to by Cryptek, my friend Vincent. And Vincent, I've actually kept in contact with him. I actually got to work with him at Sonic for one day, and I was terminated. I guess you could say I got fired. And that day I was a mess. I was not happy about that, but I got over it. I was like, yeah, it sucks, but I'll get over it, and I did. But yeah, you know, there were many people, many of my friends who were just like, they quit way sooner. Like there were people that quit after seventh grade. There were people that quit after sixth grade. The ones that quit after sixth grade were probably the nastiest people to me. But then, the people that quit after seventh grade, they weren't that bad. There were people that quit after eighth grade that, a couple of them I still know very well because because of how tightly knit we were back then. And that's something that, you never want to go away. All right. Same with the people that you meet in Region Band. You'll meet a lot of really cool people. All right. Like Region Band, if you've never done it, I recommend you do it. It's a lot of fun. You get to play a lot of fun music and do it with cool people. All right. Like some of the best people in the state, even. And actually, eighth grade was the only time I was ever in Region. Actually, no, I made it my sophomore year, but then they canceled it because of stupid COVID. But I think I'd made third chair Region 2, which was really good. I was really proud of that. My director came up to me and was like, "Did you see the results? Congratulations." And I looked at it and I was like, "Wow." And I was really bummed that they canceled Region that year. Like, we didn't even get music. Like, at the very least, I wanted the music. Like, without the music, like I was always looking for new music back then, because the stuff that we were playing in Symphonic Wind, it was just like, it was just cherry bomb stuff. It was stuff that anyone could play, and it really wasn't fun. And I started experiencing that burnout because of that. And when you go out of your way to look for new stuff all the time, it starts to catch up to you. You'll feel burned out from that. You'll feel burned out from everything. All right, and that's why a lot of people, they take mental days from school, and I absolutely respect that. Like, I wish I would have been allowed to take some of those. My parents sure as hell would not have let me to do that. Um, but it's just like, it's being so intensely focused on something for so long is not good for you in any way, and I can tie that into Chicago as well, because they are so intensely focused on music that, like, if they focus on anything outside of music, they'll start they'll start sidetracking. And that's exactly what happened to Danny Seraphin. They were like they had a meeting with Danny, and they were like, "You need to stop looking at castles and get your head back in the game. Like, you lost it here." And to an extent, I do agree with that, because if you stop for a little bit, you will get off track. But he was like starting to miss beats, and that very same thing happened to me last week on my stream where I was playing bass. And by the way, I've talked it out with the bass, and we're totally cool now. But in the meantime, I picked up guitar again. All right, I played guitar back when I was in grade 2. So like this was the first thing that I'd ever learned on. And then I've kind of self-taught myself piano, bass. I taught myself bass for sure, and I taught myself tuba and euphonium, because like I had the valve combinations in relation to the positions on the trombone. So like I would start doing that on the bus, and I would start testing myself, and I was like, no, that's not right. Ah, there we go. So yeah, and eventually I completely got the hang of it, and I was just like, wow, I probably play this easier than trombone. And that helped a lot when it came to when I started playing tuba. I was just like, I was really good. And when I was really good, I was very good. Like I knew what I was doing. Like I had taught myself this stuff like 4 years before, and it's second nature to me. Like to this day, I'll still be doing this along with bass lines because I know the music so well. And like sometimes you do have to focus really intensely on music, and other times, if you are too intensely focused, it'll start to burn you out. It'll start to just like show through. You won't feel motivated. It's just gonna be like, oh, here we go again, doing the same old thing. And that's not what you want, all right? You want to be excited about it every time. And you know that when Danny started losing track, they were just like, take some time, get it together, go practice with a click, and it just like it messed him up. Like how much they didn't like that he couldn't play well with a click. And but at the same time, in this day and age, I don't think Chicago should be touring as much as they do, killing themselves the way that they are. And that's figuratively because they still do over 100 shows a year, But, like, this is an old-timey band. Like, if they did, like, only 50 shows a year, then it would be, like, really special. It would be even more special, But, I mean, like, they want to make the money, I guess, to pass on to their families. So, like, I can understand that, too. But I just don't think they have to do as much as they're doing right now to be able to get it, if that makes any sense. And, the same thing that happened to Peter happened to me. Being burned out and just drained emotionally from it, to where, like, I didn't really care initially when we were talking about me being pulled. But it had a great impact on my life, and that's the reason I picked up bass, because I love tuba so much. Like, I liked my bass trombone, but I liked playing the tuba way more. It was a lot more fun, because the bass trombone's kind of unwieldy, to be honest. And those of you that have played one before, or even tried one out, you know exactly what I mean. I don't know how my section leader my sophomore year was able to march a bass trombone. Like, I remember before, that wasn't even allowed. And only this year, I saw them marching bari saxophone. I'd never seen that in years before. I'd seen them do that at Clemens, but not at Steele. So, yeah, and, I do... I've grown a lot from these experiences. I have been hurt a lot, but I've also been able to grow a lot, and I do believe I'm feeling stronger every day. And, I feel like it could have been better, but it was my fault, And I probably judge myself harsher than what y'all would, but I think that's for everybody, I see people treat themselves harsher than what someone else would. Because, we can be real hard on ourselves sometimes. And, someone actually gave me a "to be honest" one time. They're like, dude, you were so cool, and don't be so hard on yourself. Like, enjoy yourself. And I've passed that along to a few people, and it's helped them. But, yeah, like, I mean, now that I'm not so much into elevators anymore, I'm getting more into music again, like I was with trombone. Like, those of you that knew me back in 7th and 8th grade, I was addicted to my trombone. Okay, like, you could not separate me from it for a day. One day without it, and I would be... there was something wrong. I could not go a day without it. And now here I am. Now here I am, 5 months, and I have not played my trombone. I haven't played my trombone in 5 months. That's the longest I've ever gone without playing it. Before, the longest I'd ever gone without playing it was the summer between grade 5 and 6, where I didn't play it for 3 months. Alright, I didn't touch it. And my trombone's just sitting in my closet. It hasn't been touched in 5 months. I've been so focused on bass and now getting back into guitar. So, yeah, like when one door closes, another opens. I absolutely believe that. I know it's true. Because when I moved schools, I knew that this one was self-paced, and a lot of people that went there did end up graduating early, myself included. I transferred there in the middle of October, and I had 10.5 credits left. I needed to get those in order to graduate. And pretty much all I had was core classes and then 2 electives. That was all. So I got English 3 done pretty quick. I got it done in a couple weeks. Earth and Space Science, I got that one done pretty fast. Algebraic Reasoning, I finished that in a week. And then I was on to Algebra 2. Or, no, I didn't do Algebra 2 until later. I didn't have a math class for a while after that. But I was in... I was in U.S. history for about a month. And the teacher in there was totally cool guy. He gave me a ton of coins. Him and I are both numismatists. We collect coins, and he's got all kinds. He had all kinds of foreign coins that he gave me, and I had some that, I brought some with me because I thought we were just gonna do a trade, but he ended up giving me all of his duplicates and some that were from like the same country, but were 2 different versions, and he let me have one version of some of them. So like I got all of this from him. He was just like, I definitely want to do this deal. Like, we'll do it. Don't worry. Like, you're one of the coolest people I've ever met. And, I just, like... I definitely want you to leave here with something that's going to mean something to you. And he made it happen, And he had my brother, too, so he knew. When I told him my brother's name, he was like, oh, I know that name. I've heard that name before. And yeah, he'd had my brother 10 or 11 years prior. Which, he graduated in 2013 from that school. He graduated on time. He didn't graduate early somehow. I have no clue how he was there for 2 years. Graduated right on time. I was there for 4 months. I got 10.5 credits completed in 4 months. Like, I had 4 more semesters at Steele. No, 3 more semesters at Steele. And, now, I can't even remember, what day is a holiday. I don't remember anymore. Veterans Day, I didn't even know when Veterans Day was, just because, I wasn't in that environment that always made it known. They always made the stuff known. So, to wrap it up, Steele is not necessarily a bad place. It's just some of the people are really bad. And nothing gets done about those people. Okay? As much as I trash Steele, I'm saying this, alright? I dealt with it a lot. I had been put down a lot. I went through a big breakup there. Like, I've been through it, alright? So, like, I know what I'm talking about. And I absolutely struggled a lot. It took a big toll on my mental health. So, but now, I'm living my life with these Chicago songs all the time. I'm always listening to Question 67 and 68, Dialogue, Will You Still Love Me? And I can play them all on my bass. And I've been working on If You Leave Me Now. Like, I can play that on my guitar. I picked this back up a week ago. I hadn't played it in 7 years. And, now I can actually do stuff. Like, before, even when I was taking lessons, I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I never had the hang of it. And, now I can just come up to it and be like, I've been able to noodle through stuff like that. And Happy Man, I can do that one too. I can do part of it. Wrong chord, alright. But yeah, y'all get the idea. And 2021 was a record year for me. I had done things that I'd never done before. I did things I never thought that I would do before. I learned 2 instruments that year, which was just absolutely insane. And it was kind of a bad year, But, I mean, hey, we're going into a new one, so there's going to be a space between the new year and 2021. Alright, and this year, I graduated from high school. I was supposed to graduate in 2023, but here I am, free of all of it. Alright? So, if y'all need motivation, come talk to me. Hit me up on my Instagram, Grayish Valley, and we'll absolutely talk. Alright? Anyways, I will talk to y'all soon, like always. And if you want a tour of my elevator parts display, I will absolutely do that very soon as well, because I haven't done one in 3 years. So, alright. Thank y'all for watching, listening, and I hope y'all have a great Christmas and a Happy New Year.